It's time to fasten your seatbelt and rev up that engine. It's time to go on Pit Row. On Pit Row is your weekly look inside the world of NASCAR. Now live, here's the pit crew, Steve Ronkowitz and Charlie Turner.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go on Pit Row, boys.
Yeah, Steve Ronkowitz and Charlie Turner and Dan Beaver and maybe Beth Ann Heisler in a little bit. She might finally be rested up from 2 days of taking photos at Mid-Ohio and MIS. You know, but I got to tell you, first of all, welcome, guys. Hey, Dan, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Steve, how's things in lovely Sylvania, Ohio?
Excellent. Beautiful day in Sylvania, Ohio.
Cool. You know, Beth Ann and I were at Mid-Ohio and Michigan on Mid-Ohio Saturday, Michigan on Sunday. I asked her at one point towards the end of the day, and the race was not over at Mid-Ohio at that point, how many photos she had taken. And at that point, she's got two cameras, and they were both at about 2,800 pictures per camera. So, I mean, she's taken like 6,000 pictures at a nationwide race at Mid-Ohio. I don't know how many she took at Michigan. So, of course, we only get about 6 of them, but.
Well, hey, you know, anything in numbers like that. What's my old saying? Even a blind nut finds a squirrel once in a while.
There's some good ones in there somewhere. But now she does a terrific job. She works her tail off, and I want to thank her for that. Give her a shout out there. So anyway, went to both those races. Of course, the big story I think probably is the Cup race Sunday at MIS. Jeff Gordon winning again. Steve, after Steve made the call sometime in the middle of last season that Jeff Gordon would never win again. I think he's won 5 or 6 times since then.
I think send me a check. I have been the best thing for his. I said that.
Yeah, I kept him off my fantasy team, so that had to have been good for a position or two.
Yeah, I think we're due a check at least. You know, I'll take $100,000 or so. Call it that.
Pocket change.
Absolutely. For him, it is. Heck, he's married to a supermodel.
Yes, he is. So any surprises there? I mean, I guess you can't call Jeff Gordon a surprise this year. Not at the way he's running.
No, I think you can call him a surprise this year, and he's languished in the middle of the pack. He's been a solid top 10 points finisher all this time, but the fact that we're really talking about him as having a chance of winning the championship, I didn't think we were going to see that again. I thought he was on the decline of his career, and we'd see that slow slip into the point when he really decided to retire. So I think it's a pleasant surprise. It's nice to have names like that do well and create a bridge for those new guys coming in.
He is truly a gray beard now. There's no doubt about that. I don't know if the gray beard does him any more justice than the old porn star mustache that he used to have.
Hey, we're not. Let's not talk about gray beards, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Ronkowitz, you want to grow one, then you can say something, but other than that, no.
I could grow a gray beard too if I wanted.
Yes, I think you probably could too. So we had so Jeff Gordon wins the race. Kevin Harvick finished second again at Michigan. Joey Logano, probably a disappointing third. I think Logano thought he was going to win that race. And Logano's another one of those guys. He gets close a lot, but he can't really close that deal. What's going on there? Anybody know? Anybody got a thought on that?
Youth.
Matter of circumstances, that's all. I mean, he's got the talent. He's got a good car. Got a good owner. Everything is there.
He's a contender every week now. That's for sure.
Yeah. The amazing thing is you can only get 36 winners out of this deal, and you know. It's hard for anybody, I think, to dominate a year in this series anymore. Maybe 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins. That might be what you can expect to get. But the years of somebody coming out of one of these years with a 9 or 10 win season, long gone. Just not going to happen anymore. So I think you're going to have a lot of these guys that are close a lot, and then somewhere along the line they'll surprise you and they'll pop one in there.
Well, Dan mentioned he threw out youth there as his answer, and I think at least in that last restart, I think maybe Gordon did outthink him a little bit there.
Yeah, but Jeff sucks at restarts. What happened? Where'd that go? Why did he start not sucking all of a sudden?
You get one good restart a race for Jeff Gordon. He's just made it the right restart. 2 of the last 3, or at Indy and here. So I don't think we talked about this a little bit earlier. I don't think Gordon is out of the woods where restarts are concerned yet. But it's your blind squirrel theory. You get one good one, you make it count.
Well, that's what they say in baseball. You know, you can go up there, strike out 4 times. Your 5th time up, you hit a game-winning home run, and everybody thinks you're a hero. So, you know, I guess your theory holds water anyhow, Dan.
Yeah, and Gordon is having that throwback year. Is not to take much away from him. He's running well on tracks that he traditionally ran well on. It could have been challenging for the win at Watkins Glen if not for the electrical problem. Michigan, been more than 10 years. Bristol coming up, more than 10 years since he won, but he'll be in the mix. So,
well, listening to him in the post race press conference after his win Sunday, he seems to be very confident and really comfortable with his team. He being Jeff Gordon, really confident going to Bristol this week. Even though he hasn't won in 10 years, what do you at this point? If you got a handicap it, what do you think his chances are of winning down there?
I think restarts are going to be an issue again for him, and it's going to be a bigger issue here. You get a bad restart at Michigan, you fall back to 3rd or 4th, you can pass. You get a bad restart at Bristol, you can fall back to 15th, and getting back to the traffic is going to be much more difficult. So, not good, but certainly better than, say, either the Kyle Busch brothers or the Busch brothers.
Well, and the thing that you have to realize, too, is that I don't know how many restarts there were at Michigan. I'm going to say probably 8, 9, something like that.
There were more than that. There were a lot of yellows in that race. I'll have that for you in a second.
I mean, generally speaking, you're probably going to get 30 at Bristol. So the chances of him just having one that's not too bad, you know, 1 out of 30 doesn't get you anywhere near the front like 1 out of, say, 15 would.
I totally agree. Oh, and by the way, if I glitch, if I talk over you guys, the internet connection on my end is not stellar this week, so I apologize in advance.
No problem. You can talk over me anytime you want. I can't find those cautions. There were a lot of cautions at Michigan this past weekend. A lot of them caused by guys hitting the wall. Guys like Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson. It was a bad week to have a K in your name, I think.
And we had 8 cautions, by the way.
What's that?
8, by the way, plus the start.
I should know better than to question Steve's when it comes to numbers.
Well, there were a lot in the beginning, a lot in the end, and not so many in the middle. So maybe that was your nap time.
It seemed like a lot. When you're trying to get out of there, it seems like a lot whenever there's any, okay? Especially when you think there's a rainstorm coming and you want to get this thing over before the rainstorm comes and delays it another 2 hours. Maybe it was just my thinking. The other story, I think the other big stuff, Beth Ann has joined us too, by the way. Hey, Beth Ann, what's going on? Maybe we can't hear her. We can see her. Anyway, I already gave you your big shout-out for your pictures, so everybody knows that you did your big job this weekend at Mid-Ohio and MIS. So, excuse me. The other story and the big dog in the room down there was that Tony Stewart still, another second week in a row, chose not to run the number 14 car. Jeff Burton stepped in for Stewart, and that car finished, I don't know, down in the 30s somewhere. Any sense? Anybody got any sense? Any read anything that maybe I've missed on Twitter that gives us an idea whether or not Stewart's going to be at Bristol this week?
My gut feeling is that he will not be at Bristol. I think one more week of him being with himself, by himself, wherever he is, and a lot of people say they don't even know where he is exactly. I think one more week probably will get him in the right place in his head, and I don't know that for sure, but it just seems like the timing kind of is going to, find its way there. I think once this all gets sorted out, you're going to see Tony Stewart want to get into the chase, and he's not going to be gone for the rest of the year like some people say. I don't think he's going to be gone for even 2 more races, maybe 1 more. But he's got to get his head together, and it's a crazy thing. It's not something that you can easily figure out. So I look for him to take Bristol off and then come back.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to try to guess because I thought he'd be back last week. So, Steve, you're the only one that called it last week that he wouldn't be there. So I'm just going to have to defer to you.
Well, a lot of people have come out as Tony Stewart detractors. I talked to a lot of people who have had run-ins with Tony Stewart over the years, media types who have not gotten along with him, and to a person, every one of them has said, Tony Stewart was a jerk to me, but he's really a pretty good guy for the most part, other than to the media. And I think he needs to get himself together, and then he'll be a different person. So I look for him after Bristol.
Yeah, again, the other in a post-race presser, Harvick was asked, if he thought, if I can paraphrase, if he thought that his second place finish in the good run this week by his car was any kind of inspiration or help to the Stewart-Haas Racing team, and Harvick took the opportunity to not answer that question and go off on the media about the coverage of the whole incident and how the people who were making the comments and making the most buzz about this don't know anything about racing. And I think Harvick was right for the most part. That seems to be the prevailing thought in the garage. If you ask anybody down there, that it's not so much. Nobody seems to have talked to Tony about it or gotten his side of anything, but they think just generally the whole incident's been covered poorly.
And we're going to need to hear from Tony eventually. It's sad.
Yeah, he has to talk. I mean, he's going to have to, or it's never going to go away.
Right, and it's going to rip open the wound again, but that's the only way it's ever going to heal. And we talk about this in the Race Rewind. The mass media, the mass sports media, has no idea of what danger there is in auto racing. We lose drivers from time to time. It's tragic. We hate it. It hurts us as both the fans, as media, and as the other drivers. But it's part of it, and we know that. If you lost a football player died during a game, or a baseball player, I don't know what, had a heart attack, it's about the only danger that they've got. This kind of coverage from them might be something that was appropriate. For us, it's not inappropriate, and I don't want to detract from the fact that we lost a kid, Kevin Ward, but it's part of what we do, and we understand that, and they don't, and they should keep their damn mouths shut.
Yeah. Well said.
Very well said.
And I'm sure we'll have to revisit this next week and the week after until there's some. I think probably until Tony Stewart speaks and we can talk about what he says. So we'll defer till then. We're about halfway through our show here today, and before I forgot to put up the Fast Lap question this week on the Facebook page to generate comments. So we're going to have to pull our Shell comment of the week winner from just general comments that we get on the Facebook page, comments on this video when it's posted on YouTube or on Pit Row website or during the live broadcast. So leave a comment if you got something to say about anything we have to say or anything that's happened in NASCAR this week. And if we pick your comment, Steve will tell you what you win.
Well, Shell Saver card holders, you can win the comment of the day. You can take home a $50 Shell gift card. Also, anytime Joey Logano, driver of the 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford Fusion, wins the 2014 points race. And again, as we keep saying, it keeps being close and close and close. Shell Saver card holders can save 22 cents a gallon on any grade of Shell nitrogen-rich gasoline or Shell diesel just by using that Shell Saver card on Wednesday or Wednesday, if you prefer, after the race, valid up to 25 gallons. Visit shell.us/Wednesday for details. And other than saving 22 cents a gallon, it's pretty dang cool if you can win a $50 gift card from us.
Yeah, $50 spends no matter what. You don't have to buy gas with it. You can do whatever you want with it at a Shell store. So it's pretty good stuff. And Logano's getting closer. I think we're going to have some winners before this season's over. I thought really he was going to win this race. this past Sunday at Michigan. Beth Ann, hopefully, I know she's been diligently trying to hook up with us, but there might be an internet connection problem. Can you hear us now? Apparently not.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear her? I don't know if she can hear us.
Language to her.
Oh, well, here we go.
Johnny Manziel, do some sign language.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Sporadically.
Apparently you can't hear us. I don't know.
By the way, over to Johnny Manziel. He's from this small town that I'm in. So
how big a story is that down there right now? It's got to be a huge story that he's playing for a team that's close to us here.
It is, but if I hear him call Johnny Football one more time, I may just throw up.
Call him Johnny Flip Off now.
Yeah, but he's from apparently from Kerrville. I don't know that I knew that when I got here. So, and I'm in the next little town over.
I'm surprised there aren't billboards up everywhere. Home of Johnny Football. So the Pure Michigan 400 wasn't the only big race this weekend. There was also a Camping World Truck Series race held at Michigan, and another road course race for the Nationwide Series held down at Mid-Ohio this weekend. And it was a terrific race. Really, we covered it. Beth Ann and I were there for Up at Row, and the crowd was another great crowd at Mid-Ohio. The hills, the grandstands, everything pretty much was full. The racing was I thought was really good. Won by Chris Buescher, and I'm going to tell you something. We don't ever talk about Chris Buescher as one of the guys that's up and coming, one of the young guys, but he's done nothing but win. Every place he's been, at every level, and somebody's going to give him a chance in Cup at some point. If he gets good equipment, he can drive a car.
Chris did a good job when he raced in the ARCA Series again.
Yeah.
Running for the Riulo brothers, who basically were just a stone's throw away from Roush Fenway. And when he had that equipment, he was very stout in it. And, he's got some talent. There is no doubt about that. Just it's finding a spot for some of these guys. We found a spot for about 4 guys this year. The question is whether or not they can find a way to slot in 3 or 4 more guys over the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, and, of course they're going to Chase Elliott's down there, and he's coming fast. He finished top 5, I think, again in a road course race, which is notably not his strong suit. Nationwide Series. Alex Tagliani is the closest thing to a road course ringer you could have in that nationwide race this past weekend, and I think he got shuffled back out of the top 5, although he was running up front for a good portion of the race. He was not really well thought of after the thing was over with. Several of the drivers had. I think Brian Scott specifically wasn't real happy with the way Tagliani restarted and some of the other stuff he was doing. So our regular stock car drivers are kind of taking ownership of those road courses at this point. They're not taking any kind of backseat at all to anybody who's not a regular anymore.
Well, the whole road course ringer thing seems to have gone away. You did not have the road course ringers of years gone by, even in the Nationwide Series. They pretty much disappeared from the Cup Series. They had found their way into the Nationwide Series, but there really weren't that many of them even this week down there.
Now, last year at this race, you had Ron Fellows. I believe Tagliani was there again last year. There were a couple of others. And Tagliani was the only one this year. There was nobody else that you would call a road course ringer or any kind of fill-in in that regard at Mid-Ohio, and they weren't missed. I mean, the racing was just terrific without them. Even that race had been won by A.J. Allmendinger last year. Allmendinger wasn't in the race this year, but was pretty well dominated by Buescher. Brian Scott, Elliott Sadler was up front a good portion of the race. Trying to think who else. Sam Hornish Jr. ran well. Sam was actually on the pole. But it was an exciting race and good stuff, and they're certainly going to go back to Mid-Ohio. I mean, that's got to be one of their best crowds of the year. And speaking of crowds, I didn't mention this when we were talking about the Cup race at Michigan. That was as nice a crowd as I've seen at Michigan on a Sunday in years. Yesterday or 2 days ago.
Still, they're getting bad press. I saw in the local newspaper today there was comments about how the stands were not as full as they had been, and it's pretty interesting that some of the comments coming out of MIS were, hey, we're doing a pretty good job. When you look at the fact that they only figure that they get about a 15% rollover of people that come to the June race come back for the August race. And if that's true, if you're only getting 15% to cross over between those two, you're doing a hell of a job bringing different people into the seats 2 times a year.
Well, they don't announce attendance figures, but, and I'm just looking at what I see. I thought there was a better crowd this time than there was in June. It looked to me like the normal camping areas were pretty well full. The traffic was pretty good. There has been, and Beth commented on this over the weekend as well. There's a concerted effort by the people who run that racetrack to connect more with media. They're much more outgoing. Steve, you can remember a couple of years ago how antagonistic it kind of was down there, at least for anybody that didn't have an ESPN or a Fox Sports shirt on. That's not the case. There are people actually going out of their way to hook up with even people like us there. So it was that part. I know Roger Curtis is doing a good job with his people there.
Well, that is definitely a change in procedure, because that's why I have refused to go there for the last 2 years.
I know that. You might want to consider coming back. Come back, Steve. Maybe they'll have a comeback. Maybe they'll have a comeback Steve campaign next year.
We'll see. I don't know. It may take it off a lot of this.
Well, I don't know that I'd count on that much.
Okay, just a little bit of this.
So what else we got? What else happened this week in NASCAR? We had a big test yesterday at Michigan, supposedly testing, the rumor was testing rules packages for 2015, lower horsepower, lower downforce. Any news from anybody on that? Any comment?
Well, the car number has been disclosed for Carl Edwards moving over to the dark side.
And it is?
Catch off that first 9 and slap a 1 in front of it.
The 19. We're bringing back the 19, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that number's got a little history to it.
It does have a little history. And I did see that half of the races are going to be sponsored by, and I didn't write it down, but I think it's like Arris, A-R-R-I-S, which if I have that right, maybe Dan knows this too, because he can look it up. I see him looking, which is, I believe, their claim to fame up until a little while ago was making actual cable boxes for cable companies around the country. So unless they've diversified and changed what they do, I would have thought that might be a dying business, but enough to sponsor 18 races anyhow.
So they're going to be in 18 races, and is it 3M on the other 18?
That has not been said. No, 3M is gone. 3M went to who the heck did 3M go to?
To your dark side, Jeff Gordon.
My dark.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I did know that. Forgotten that. Jack, I can tell you the 16 car had Roush Performance Products on it Sunday.
Yeah,
a good-looking red car. I can't believe that'll last forever.
There should be some sort of a campaign to rename Exalta DuPont.
Yeah, there really should be.
It just does not play. So, oh well.
Yeah, of course we're from a city where there was a big DuPont presence for a long time, so we're probably a little partial to that. But
me too. But hey,
maybe people nationally don't know the DuPont name the way we know it. But Beth, I see your face down there. Can you hear us? She's got a real. Oh, okay. You're just messing with me.
You can hear us, but she's on Bowling Green time, so you have to wait 45 seconds.
She apparently needs Zaris.
The voice has to bounce off the water tower.
She apparently needs Edwards' new sponsor, though, because they do broadband and what have you. So
there you go.
They can be a sponsor on Pit Row live Hangout next year too. We'll work that out when you talk about this stuff. So all right. So little bit of sponsor news, a little bit of driver silly season news. But other than that, I mean, it really wasn't a newsy week, was it?
It was not a newsy week.
It's early. I mean, everybody, we still have the news coming whether or not Stewart will race, and as you get closer to it, and at Bristol, it's mostly focusing on the racing anyway. There's not a whole lot of other stuff. You're kind of far from the Madden crowd, so.
We're gonna get to Bristol here in just a minute, but before we do that, I think 4 drivers locked up their spots in the chase this past weekend. 4 drivers who were questionable 2 weeks ago. One of them being AJ Allmendinger, who's now a lock to be in the chase. I can't remember who the other. Gosh, I should have written those down. No, I have it here. AJ Allmendinger, Eric Almirola, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, and Denny Hamlin. As long as they plan to start and enter the next 3 races, they have qualified for the chase. That doesn't leave us many spots open yet, does it?
No, and not a lot of surprises there really either. But unfortunately, Kyle Busch had some issues this week, and too bad. But he's in the chase, and he should be. There's nobody in the chase I don't think that shouldn't be. I still think that somehow, some way, maybe Marcus Ambrose will find his way into this thing still. I don't know why I keep thinking that, but I just got that kind of gut feeling. I don't know where it's going to happen, but I feel like it could.
Ambrose, I think this week, I think is a good shot for him. Bristol is a great place for him. I think you got to throw Vickers in there too, though. Another good track for him. So we could get another unique winner at Bristol especially if they get to messing around with each other at the front of the pack.
Again, I don't have the rosters in front of me. Does Clint Boyer have a win yet? Because if he doesn't, then Michael Waltrip Racing does not have a car in the chase, when I read it.
Boyer's winless, and he's one of those drivers. Right now, anybody with a win is locked in. So
Right.
We've gotten to that point. And all the drivers that aren't, the 13th through 16th ranks are those drivers that need to make it on points. So a win could potentially dislodge any of them. I guess Kenseth's the next one we'll probably talk about when he gets enough of a points lead, and there are not enough unique winners that he could get locked in without a victory. So, but right now Boyer's seated number 15th, so he could get overtaken by Kane, by Dillon, by Larson, by Ambrose, or by any other winner. So.
Yeah, Casey Kane had a disappointing race at Michigan. I thought he ran sort of up front for a little bit of the race. Looked like he might be able to. He hung around the back end of the top 10 for probably half, 3/4 of the race, but faded at the end. We thought maybe all the Hendrick mojo was going to go toward Kane, but if it did, it didn't help him any.
Yeah, and kind of, I wonder what's going on with Edwards. I wonder what's going on with Kane. Are they giving him the support that he really needs? Or how can you be that much worse off than the rest of your teammates consistently?
It's been a long-standing policy at Hendrick, though.
The 5 car? Yeah.
Fourth car has always been way behind the first 3. It's been 3 plus the other guy, whoever it's been.
Well, it seems like it's always been that 5 car too. They renumbered it, and Ricky Craven in it, Wally Dallenbach in it,
and Schrader.
Yeah, it just seems like that's always the car. They need to just scrap that number.
Yeah, well, back when it was Schrader and Walt Dallenbach and those guys, it was the 25. But maybe they need to bring the 25 back. I don't know.
Yeah.
Need to do something. We're going to I think Steve's probably right. It's probably somewhere along the line they're going to buy the 9. Is it going to be the 9 or the 09, Steve?
For what?
For when they put Chase Elliott in that 4th car up there.
See, there's a lot of...
You think it's the 24, I know, but I just don't think that's happening.
I think it'll depend. If Marcus Ambrose decides to go back to Australia, the 9 would become available because I don't think Richard Petty really cares. In which it could be the 9. If that doesn't happen, the 94 is Chase Elliott's secondary number. So, which is the number that Bill ran for his own team as well. So.
Yeah, that was the McDonald's car, right?
Yeah.
The 94. Okay, well, that's. I think we've kind of drug out the the pure Michigan 400 week as far as we can drag it out. It's time. Let's talk about Bristol. We go to the night race this week. We've got fantasy considerations.
Yeah, and I say this a lot.
I was going to try and give you some kind of a thumbs up or something, Dan, or
Start talking.
kind of cross to stop until Steve got his TV.
Is dig in?
Yeah. All right. So now you were saying about Bristol.
No, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Okay, that's it for this week's live on Pit Row Hangout.
What was I saying? We're talking about Bristol. Oh, I say this every week, or often I say this is one of my favorite tracks. We finally got to my favorite track and my favorite race. There's just nothing better in my mind than these cars under the lights at Bristol, high banks, progressive banking, whatever it's been. This has just always been one of my favorite races. Love short tracks, all the beating and banging that goes on with it. And typically you get some pretty good runs there. You had Darrell Waltrip dominating for so long. We've got 3 active drivers with 5 wins apiece. So Kyle Busch's 5 came in a very short period. Kurt Busch's 5 came in a relatively short period of time, and then Gordon's probably stretched it out about the most best of anybody. So you get some nice streaks there. It makes it kind of easy, not easier, but gives you something to talk about when you talk about fantasy racing. Still, the NASCAR's devotion to parity has changed that up some. So you get some dark horses. We've got some changes in the guard up the front of the pack. I don't think anybody really expected Eric Almirola to run so well there this spring. Marcus Ambrose has a couple of strong runs there. Rookie Kyle Larson finished 10th in the spring. So you've got some Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finishing 2nd. You get some surprises now at the front of the pack, and you got a good balance, I think, of the two things. But still, it's a rhythm track. Drivers that get their rhythm down going through the corners are the ones that consistently rise to the top. And you can kind of get a good sense, I think, of who that's going to be by watching practice. And leading up to the race, you're not just left in the dark. It's a wild card race, but it's not nearly like the restrictor plate super speedways, and it's not even like Martinsville for some of that wild card action. So this is just one of those races that I think it just works. Meanwhile,
it's one of those tracks that has those great metaphors about it. You know, it's like flying fighter planes in a gymnasium. You know, Thunder Valley and all that stuff. I love it, and the night one is the one to me.
Yeah. If I could go to one race a year, it'd be the night race at Bristol. Also, it falls right around my birthday, so it's something extra there. I can usually get my wife to bring me a snack sometime during that. The other 35, I'm just on my own. But I think we've got some interesting choices up in the front, too. Yahoo's Group A. Kane's been strong here. He's got another shot at it. I said that last week at Michigan and was obviously wrong and disappointed. But this is a track where he's run well in the past. Last year he finished 1st and 2nd in the 2 races, and he has a 4-race top 10 streak. If he's going to get out of his malaise, this is the kind of place that it can happen. Matt Kenseth has run strong here. He overcame a lot of adversity in the spring to get back into contention and then hit the wall one more time. But I think he had the most top 5s, I think he had the most top 5s in this race or laps in the top 5 in this race in the spring. He was definitely on target to run well. He got run over from the back, I think, by Brian Scott in the number 33 that almost destroyed his car. They fixed it. And then he slapped the wall just one time too many and did himself in. So I think in Group A you've got some you've got some choices other than the usual cast of characters. And that's true down in Group B too, I think. I mentioned it briefly. I think Marcus Ambrose and Brian Vickers not only have a chance to be the best Group B driver in the Yahoo game, they've got an outside shot at winning. Brian Vickers has got the longest active top 10 streak at 5 coming into Bristol. 3 of those were top 5s. But no one's talking about him. No one's talking about him potentially winning a race. He's far enough down in the points that if he doesn't win a race, they're not going to talk about him being in chase contention. He could pull that surprise like Allmendinger did 2 weeks ago at Watkins Glen. And then you've got Ambrose with always seems to run well here. Where is he on the chart here? He's got 3 top 10s in the last 4 races, 2 of which are 5th place finishes. So if they give him everything that he needs this week, he could be another one of the surprise drivers. And both he and Almirola finished in the top 5 in the spring. So Richard Petty Motorsports kind of figuring this place out. After that, Logano, Keselowski, good. Always going to be good. Keselowski's got a couple of wins there. Logano could win if he gets the right level of aggression. But I think you kind of you jump over those guys and you go for these differentiators, go for these dark horses. And you do something a little bit different before we get into that long 12-race streak to the end that has a lot of unrestricted intermediate speedways in them, where you're going to concentrate on the drivers with horsepower. This is one of the last drivers' tracks. New Hampshire will be one, Martinsville will be one, Phoenix will be one, where you got to finesse it through the corners. This is a driver's track, though, that you can approach it 2 different ways. You can attack the corners hard and give up something on the exit, or you can ease into the corners and attack the exit. On a flat track, there's one right way to do it. At Bristol, you can do it either way and kind of meet at the end. So you've got drivers like Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch who are aggressive and have a success here. Drivers like Gordon Edwards who are not particularly aggressive. They're a little more, and Kenseth who are finesse drivers, and they're successful here. So again, I think this is one of those great tracks for that reason. And you jump down to Group C. I really don't know what to do in Group C. I think it ends up being more of an allocation management play this week. I've got Larson and Dillon handicapped at the top just because they deserve to be handicapped at the top. But Justin Allgaier's had very consistent runs on the short tracks this year. 3 starts at Bristol, Martinsville, and Richmond. He's finished in a narrow band between 17th and 23rd. That might be close enough that he should be on your roster just because he's going to be close enough to a Dillon or a Larson that if they slip just a little bit, he's going to earn points right up there with them. And you got Dave Blaney in that 37 car. That they keep trying to go the distance. They could be an interesting pick this week down in Group C. He's not going to be a top 3, but he could be the 4th best points earner, the 5th best points earner, and provide a surprise if any of those other guys start to stumble.
Yeah, and I can't believe there'll be a lot of people picking him. That's I think Blaney. That's a good call there. If is Group C kind of a place where you can take a flyer once in a while, or do you want to be consistent there? And
well, you have to. There are only so many part-time drivers. Last week, I think Jeff Burton was a good pick once he was announced in the 14, but his electrical issue caused a problem there. Regan Smith at Watkins Glen crash caused a problem. So yeah, it's just you have to take some risks down in that level, and you have to take them calculated risks. I think Allgaier's emerging as that 3rd driver, where I thought it was going to be Danica at the beginning of the year. Allgaier, I think, is probably the driver that you're going to want to think of as driver 3 in Group C from now to the end of the year.
At Michigan, I can't remember the fellow's name. It was from Stewart-Haas Racing. Was being asked about Tony Stewart. What was the what's the focus for Stewart-Haas Racing going forward in Tony's situation? And his comment was, our focus is to get Danica into the chase. Is there what are the chances of her winning one of these next 3 races?
I think For these next 3 races, Richard Petty's comment is probably accurate. Everybody else is going to have to quit for her to win one of these 3 races. I think she's got a chance at winning, but Atlanta would probably be her best chance since she ran so well at Kansas. They've got Hendrick Motorsports power under the hood. She's not going to do it at Bristol. She's probably not going to do it at Richmond. So unless they pull out the stops and have a really good strategy at Atlanta, it's not going to happen.
Okay, so we're down to let's see. We need to wind this thing up today. We'll go with our picks for Bristol. I'm going to go with Jeff Gordon to get 2 in a row. Steve, who are you picking?
I'm going with Carl Edwards.
Carl Edwards. There's talk about one from left field. That might be from left field. Dan, who you got? Since Beth Ann's finally given up the ghost train, hook up with us.
I'm just wondering if Steve thinks Carl Edwards is going to get one of those JGR cars before the weekend.
No, but I'm taking the over and under of mass carnage, and there'll only be 20 cars left on the track. So
there you go.
I think it's time. It's Bristol. Go big or go home. I'm picking Brian Vickers.
Yeah, I think that's. I like that call as well. I like the Blaney call. I like the Vickers call. I like the Marcus Ambrose call. I think Steve. I really thought you'd go with Ambrose, and I wouldn't be surprised. I think Beth Ann's either going to make a prediction, but I will message you guys so we can have it on record. I think she's going to either go Casey Kane or Marcus Ambrose, but we'll see later on. Guys, thanks for everything this week. Any final thoughts on NASCAR before we go into the big night race, Bristol night race weekend?
No, my only thought is that we got one more driver who's going to win the race, and then after that, it's done.
Is it going to be Matt Kenseth?
No.
All right. Dan, if you got to pick one, who's going to be the one guy who's going to win that hasn't won yet so far this year?
Well, I picked Vickers, but I think Boyer's got a good shot at Richmond. So
he's very good.
Something else, I'd go with Boyer.
I still think Casey Kane's going to win, but I think it's going to be next week in Atlanta. Okay, that's it for this week. I want to thank everybody for who's joined us, and thanks my partners in this effort, Steve Ronquist and Steve-O. Thank you. Follow Steve on Twitter at Bench Racing. Dan Beaver, of course, you follow Dan at Fantasy Race, and me, Charlie Turner, follow me at on Pit Row. Beth Ann is at My Metro Toledo if we can ever get her back on here again. But we've got to work on that internet connection. Guys, thanks. We'll be back next week when we talk about the aftermath of Bristol and going to Atlanta.
You've just been on Pit Row, and now you're up to speed with the best information about the world of NASCAR. Come back next week and join the pit crew, Steve and Charlie, and go on Pit Row. On Pit Row is a presentation of Bench Racing Productions.
Hey, this is Jeff Hammond from NASCAR on Fox and Speed, and all the cool people hang on Pit Row.
What's wrong with it? Oh. Hey, now it works.